everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this event of the BCS London Branches. And this is a very special event. As you know, the subject is cybersecurity, how to get your first job in cybersecurity. And we have some great people here who are going to tell you much more based on their practical experience. And to lead us through this journey is our colleague, Samira Ali, who is going to be our compere through this event. So my name is Dalim. I'm chairman of the London Branches, which means 3 branches, North London, Central London, and South London. And we have lots of things for you, general, on cybersecurity and other topics. Today is the latest, greatest one on cybersecurity. Over to you, Samira.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Dalim, and thank you to all our guests who are joining us now for our BCS event. Our event is called How to Get Your First Cybersecurity Job, and today we've got 3 amazing panelists who gave up their evening to be here with us. So we are forever thankful and very grateful for them to be with us here to share their knowledge with us. So welcome to our lovely panelists. So we've got Julie, we've got Atinuke, and we've got Margaret with us. Hello.
Hello all.
Hello.
Excellent. So good to see you all. So first things first, I would like for each one of you, I want to give you the mic to be able to introduce yourself. So your name and what you currently do as an introduction, and that'll be great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the slide over to the next one as well. So should we start off with Margaret? So if you tell us, Margaret, about yourself and your current role.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. As you can see, that's my name, Margaret Chitham. And I've been an operations analyst at Boots for the past 6 months. I work in the identity and access management team, dealing with access management, basically, and making sure that people have the correct access for the systems that they need. And if they don't, if they leave the company, then we take it off them. So that is what I do in a nutshell, but it's very involved. There's a lot of employees at Boots, as you'd imagine. So yeah, it's quite full on. I've learned a lot over the 6 months. So yeah, it's so far so good.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that introduction. Next, we've got Julie. Over to you, Julie.
Lovely. Thank you, Samira. So yes, my name is Julie Morgan. I am an information assurance analyst. I'm just going to say within government. It pretty much says it on the tin, that I just make sure whatever comes my way, that it is safe and within regulations and policies, really. And I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Jules. Okay, next we've got Atinuke. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Atinuke Olutunfse, or you can see my name as Tino. That's what I call that's what people call me. What I do, I work as a cybersecurity technologist. I work with the operation team right now, but over the past, I got my own job immediately. So I've had my job for about 10 months now. I work I've spanned across the cybersecurity team. I've worked with the operations. I've worked with the strategy team. I've worked with the operations team. So for me, it's more encompassing about everything about cybersecurity, learning almost everything about it, and also getting professional about a particular field in it. But right now, I work as a detection analyst to analyze incidents and remediate it for the organization.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Tinu. Much appreciated. So, with all our three panelists, you will notice a lot of common grounds today. And the reason why we've invited them here is because all of our three panelists have all been in their job now for under a year. So some might have been 10 months, some of them might be 6 months, some of them might be 7 or 8 to 9 months. But basically, they are fresh. Lots of the journey. If anybody here wants to get into cybersecurity, we know it's not a straight path. And before you get into cybersecurity as well, everybody has their own route on how to get there. So this whole session it's going to be interactive. So if anyone has any questions, at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So please feel free to share any questions. And if we've got time, we'll try to give it to our lovely panelists as well. So I would like to know, as somebody who's curious about cybersecurity, one of the things that I would love to know is, before cybersecurity, what was your previous job that you did? Okay, so before you got to where you are now, like in the job that you're doing, what kind of job did you do before? And also, why cybersecurity? What made you, out of all the fields that you could have chosen in tech, why cybersecurity? Like, because we always say, like, okay, some people say passion, some people will say, okay, you know what, there was this story that led me here. So we would just love to hear from all of you in your own words. So if we can start with, I'll go backwards now. So we'll start with Tinu. Why cybersecurity, and what did you do before you started cybersecurity?
Previously, before cybersecurity, I worked as a data analyst, and I've worked previously also as a health referral administrator. So all these roles are always about protecting data and working with data. And so this brought my attention to what can be done to make sure that this data has integrity, it is confidential, and it is available at when needed. And that's when I started getting interested in the process of securing data. And that's how I found the boot camp. But when I started, I knew I found out that it is not only this data that it is being secured. Even before it gets to the data, you need to protect the system, you need to protect the organization before you even trickle down to the data. So for me, it was more about protecting people's data, organizations' data, and that's got my attention about cybersecurity.
Excellent, fantastic. And somebody's just asked, you said you got your straight away, but from what? And then if you just heard what Tunu just said, is she said she did a boot camp. So she said she got a job straight after she did a boot camp, which you can go into later on. Okay, cool, Shola. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much for that, Tunu. Okay, same question to Jules. Please, if you can share with us, what did you do? What was your job before you got into cybersecurity, and what made you choose cybersecurity as a field? Thank you.
Okay, so I was mainly in the finance sector. So I did roles involving management accounting for charities, payroll manager for chartered accountancy, payroll compliance, job evaluations, public sector. Then I became a project manager of various projects involving like sports halls and restructuring departments and bits and bobs. I already know people in this sector, and I kept being told that I was using the same disciplines and principles in finance, and to transition into cyber should be quite simple-ish. And just literally a bit like what Tanu said, because I was dealing with, risk assessing, business continuity, handling sensitive data. These are all key words you should always keep a note of. Complying to law, regulations, procedures, policies, and having that integrity, preparing for audit and data management. And so they're all good things to sort of just remember. So it all kicked off when I was sent a link. It was like a pilot course from ISC Squared, and it was to encourage women to go into cyber. And I did the course and I was hooked. And consequently, that course now is on IC Squared, and it's called Certified in Cyber, CC. So you can get the qualification at the end of that. And like Atinuke, because we were all together training, I was lucky enough to enroll on a cyber boot camp and continued with my qualifications from there. But I'll stop there for your next question.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Excellent. Okay. And same question, Margaret, over to you.
Okay. Prior to this role, I'd had a career break. And prior to that, trying to figure out what I was going to do, I was in the NHS for about 18 years. And the last role I did, because I had a few jobs in the NHS, was IT tech support, supporting probably about 5 hospitals at the time that I left, clinical system support, and I was on duty, if you like, when the WannaCry malware hit the NHS. And I think that sparked an interest in cybersecurity. But working in the NHS, obviously, you've got to protect the data, and you're handling sensitive data in the clinical systems, emailing vast amounts of data in between NHS organisations. So all those things we had to be conscious of, as well as other duties. So I think, handling downtime and reverting back to business as usual, all these things are within the cybersecurity world. But I think there was a misconception, a preconceived idea that you had to be exceedingly techie, into coding, hacking, and whatever to be in cybersecurity. And doing the boot camp changed that perspective, and I realized that I'd had a lot of transferable skills, that could be used in this sector. So doing a boot camp was a good experience into getting into cybersecurity, and just taking it from there.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Margaret. So on the chat, a lot of people are asking, which boot camp did you do? And it says here, which boot camp did you do? And that is coming into our next answer and stuff like that. So, and it says here, which boot camp did you find? So with the next question, as we ask them, like as you all saw, all 3 of the panelists, yes, they did do the same boot camp. However, after they talk about which boot camp it is, just to let you know that boot camp is no longer, we don't do that boot camp anymore. So that same boot camp is not active anymore. But however, there's a government website that I will share that will give you access to all the free boot camps in cybersecurity that you can do. So I will let the panelists talk about it. So my next question is, to get to the job that you are now, obviously, as we all saw, all of you come from a non-traditional background and stuff. So you've got amazing life experience, you've got great work experience from the past, but none of it was super technical or per se, or cybersecurity related per se, although you've got lots of transferable skills. So in order for you to have made the bridge, you all talked about you did a boot camp, but then what I want to know is, obviously you can talk about which boot camp you did, but what other qualifications did you do? So do any of you have a degree? Like maybe you've got like a technical degree as well? Because a lot of the time people think that in order for you to get into cybersecurity, especially an entry first role, that you need a degree per se. So what I want to talk about is, A, do you all have a degree that is particularly related to cybersecurity? And if not, what qualifications did you find were the ones that opened the door for you and that helped you to pursue and make that career transition? So we will start with you, Margaret, on this occasion.
Okay. I do have a degree, but it's not from a traditional brick and mortar university. It's from the Open University. And I'm very proud of that, because I did that not in 3 years, but over a period of time, because life happens. And, I still managed to come out with a favorable results. But I think that shows, that I'm a self-starter, and I've got a determination to succeed, to do that by myself amongst everything else. And I think, employers would like to know that whatever qualification you do, that you take it on board yourself to actually keep up with your learning. So yeah, you've gone and done a degree, but have you got experience in what you want to do, or learned something specific regarding the role that you want to take on? I mean, that is difficult. It's a chicken and egg situation, but the doing the boot camp and whatever qualification you can get from the BCS CISMP or the ISC squared CC certification. Both of those are really good introductions to the principles in cybersecurity, and therefore I think if you did either of those, then that will show, like, you know, this person's interested in getting a job within cybersecurity, and they're a bit general, but they do sort of enlighten you as to the principles and concepts within the cybersecurity space. And once you do get an opening, get a job somewhere, then you could sort of focus on what really appeals to you within that sector, and try and see how best you can learn those skills going forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Margaret. Okay, next we've got Jules. Go ahead.
Okie dokie. I don't have a degree, and so for myself, with the boot camp, I found that the CISMP or the CC course, pretty much mirroring what Margaret just said, was quite useful, but I found it was applying your knowledge and demonstrating what they're after, because ultimately not having an IT background isn't a handicap, because you haven't got any baggage, and if an employer likes you, then they're going to train you, but you have to have those soft skills where they'll work with you. So it's just remembering that really as well. In terms of exams, I would have said that just showing an interest in, like, your book readings titles and what your intent is. So perhaps you've got a program of what you want to achieve in terms of what you want to learn and grab as in examinations. For example, Microsoft Learning have a lot of free exams, so you can actually demonstrate your passion that you want to expand your knowledge. That's always quite attractive for employers. But otherwise, pretty much what Margaret said, actually, as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Excellent. And Tinu, over to you now, please. If you can let us know your background in terms of education and what was the things that helped you, like qualifications that helped you.
Okay. In terms of background for me, I have a degree, but as an immigrant, I had a degree before coming to the UK, and I had a degree as a degree of industrial chemistry. So it's not related to cybersecurity at all. However, as Julia has previously said, the most important thing is for you to have the determination, the motivation, self-motivation to be able to say, okay, I want to do this and to pursue it. In the process of you trying to motivate yourself, you can find yourself with any educational stuff to help you, get these qualifications that would at least push you and make you stand out. So for me, it's the background doesn't really matter. The most important thing for me is the motivation and the determination. Once you have that, I'm telling you, you have every other thing. If I want to keep analyzing it, I will just keep mirroring what Margaret and Julie has already said. The only thing I can say is have that motivation and have that the drive that you want to do. I did remember while we were on boot and in the boot camp, there were people from different walks of life, totally different. Samira would even say that. We had a taxi driver on it. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't really matter. It's what matters is what is ahead, not what's behind. That's it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Tinu. Absolutely. So in context, what Tinu was saying is that I obviously know the panelists from before, and it's true with when you do boot camps, having done a boot camp myself in the past, is you get to meet people from all walks of life. Like it's the government boot camp providers. There's so many of them, and then later on, I will share the government website, which you will see, like, I don't know, there's like hundreds of providers all over the UK, whether you're in Scotland, Northern Ireland, you name it. There's lots of providers that offer free boot camps because they are all funded by the government. Okay, and it's up to for all of you to choose which boot camp providers that you want. We're not advertising any particular boot camps and stuff, we're just sharing what we did. And it's really important that obviously when you do the boot camps, if whether you go a boot camp way or a different way, again, it's all about what you get out of it. It's a long, I mean, having done the boot camp myself, it's one of those things where it's 12 weeks and it's like technical session, lots of studying. I'm sure you all will agree. It's not an easy walk in the park where you get free qualification and you just get a certificate of attendance. You have to put in the work. So as Tunu was saying, it's all about determination and motivation. But my next question is going to show all of you what it is because a lot of people ask, is boot camp enough to land the job? And I personally think it's boot camp alone is not enough. You still got to do a bit more, you know, a lot more, to be honest, and stuff, to get your foot into a cybersecurity role. Okay, you've got to do a lot more. I wish I could say there's a magic formula, but there isn't. So my next question to our lovely panelists is, after you've done obviously the studying, you've got your qualifications now. Obviously, what challenges did you have to find a job? Like, for example, did you all just do one interview and then get a job straight away? I'm sure you would have had some challenges. You would have had a couple of interviews that you would have had. There might have been some imposter syndrome somewhere, maybe, I don't know. So I would love for you all to share with me, and I'm going to start with what challenges, after you got your qualifications now, what challenges have you had in the job hunting process, and what did you do to stand out? Because as we all know, we have to impress the hiring managers. Okay, so any nuggets, any words of wisdom of what we can do to stand out, okay, in the job market. So on this now, I'm going to start with Jules on this occasion. So over to you. What challenges did you have while job hunting? And yeah, and if any, how did you overcome them, Jules?
Okay, so for me, it is such a vast horizon. So when you don't know what you wanted to do, for me, it was just, I didn't want to go too much into detail. I wanted to stay high level. So I remember we were kind of sort of, we did like a little bit of a brainstorming of titles of what to look for and to try and build an idea, because with that, that's when you can start your CV. So for me, I didn't want to carry any of my previous history. So what did I put on there? And I found that very difficult. And again, having that niggle that I don't have a degree, or I am literally transitioning from one sector in finance into cyber, you are dealing with a lot of demons, or I was dealing with a lot of demons. So yeah, it was the CV, and I did several, and they were titled and they were described in particular job roles. I found the BCS, it was the 365 CV checker. I found that very good, because naturally I was using sort of keywords which were financial, and I didn't want that. So that was quite good to have that independent, even though it's AI, but just to have that sort of like that feedback. I was quite lucky where I found LinkedIn a no-go, really. So for job hunting, I went for civil service, and I went through like the BCS job searches as well. And I would say they're not trying to trick you. When there's a job advert out there, just read it and reread it again, and you'll find that the CVs that you've done probably won't help, because they'll have their own style and you have to complete what they have to do. And Yeah, so just read, do that. And another interesting thing was find a mentor, because sometimes it's just that mentor, if they recommend you, that can open doors as well. If I hadn't have got this particular job, that was the route I was going to go down in. But I was very fortunate where I came across the job and I wanted it and I dreamt it, and I would talk to myself in the shower, all those open questions. Why do you want this job? What can you offer me? And I used to blabble day in, day out. And say I was very thankful that my first CV, my job interview, got me the job. So just believe in yourself.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely believe in yourself. I love that, Jules. And like you've said, it's like mentors, they're worth their weight in gold. Absolutely worth their weight in gold. So well done for that, Jules. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad that you said as well about just not LinkedIn only. I like the other point that you made about the fact that you need to go on the websites as well and apply civil services, like you said. If for anybody who applied for jobs on the civil services or any of the government websites, they don't only ask you, most of them don't ask you for CV, they ask you to complete a statement, and that details the job. And it's a really good way to get your foot in the door. Obviously, you still got to go through rigorous interviews that are like over an hour long. Sometimes you might have one interview, sometimes it could be two, but definitely I agree with you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, next I've got Tinu, over to you.
Okay. With regards to challenges or difficulties, as I said earlier on, I'm still going to emphasize on it. It's about, for me, was more of like a determination and self-motivation. I remember vividly the first day we attended the boot camp, and the question that was first asked was, why are you here? And I told them, I'm here because I want to get a job in cybersecurity. That is the reason why I'm here. So that was my own motivation. So after the cybersecurity, after the training, after the bootcamp, where the organization that we did the training with were providing vacancies, and I found one that I was really interested in, and about 2 or 3 of them I did apply. And at the time when I did the first interview, Samira was my training mentor then. So I would always pull her legs and say, Samira, I have this interview. We need to sit down and let's go through over it again. And then personally, I did self awareness. Like I found what would make me stand out. Like the way Julie was saying, sometimes I was already dreaming of going to office, even though I've not even done an interview. So sometimes you need to dream bigger than your possibility. So for me, it was more of my own determination. I presented myself in such a way that when the interview came, I did the first stage of interview, the second stage of interview, and there was even like a third stage of interview, and I did it. So what I sold for myself during this interview was more of my transferable skills, because I made it known to them that this is a transition role for me, and it's not something I've been doing. So I try as much as possible to merge what I've been doing before with what I have learned at the bootcamp and sell it to them to sell myself. And I think that was what made me stand out. So I would say that was the first interview I did after the bootcamp, and I got employed. So I didn't really face too much challenges in terms of that. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Tinu. Excellent. And over to Margaret, please.
Well, there were a few challenges for sure. I get a bit overwhelmed with choice when job hunting, because I'm like, oh, that looks good. And then they want you to come down to London like 4 times a week or something like that. So I had to be a little bit, drill down to what I really wanted going forward with my career. I knew what I didn't like from previous experience, and I sort of had an idea of what I wanted. And so far, it's worked out. I've had a lot of interviews. Some I thought I'd get the job for sure, and then I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get it. And I asked for feedback, and they were happy to provide. I think that's a good learning point as well. You know, if at first you don't succeed, try again, because, you know, if this is something that you're working towards, then don't just stop at the first hurdle. And, you know, sometimes I wasn't quick enough to submit an application because I had to redo my CV for this, that, and the other. And, you know, it was just a little bit chaotic. But the one thing I will say is, if you're looking to get into this area, is have a LinkedIn profile, because not only are you applying for jobs, but recruiters are also looking at your LinkedIn profile. And if you can optimize it in a way that your keywords, your transferable skills pop out to them when they do a search on LinkedIn for people that they might be interested in hiring, then that will serve you, you know, that's twofold. You're sending out an application and people are looking at your profile. So yeah, I think if this is the area that, you know, you want to carry on your career in, then, you know, you need to immerse yourself as well into whatever the BCS webinars. I see ISC2 webinars as well. And, you know, that once you've picked up all those keywords that they keep throwing at you when you watch these things, it'll sink in. So when you come to the interview, you're able to talk about these things, you know, a lot freer, and practice what you're saying as well, you know, so that you know what you're on about, instead of just freezing up in the interview when they throw a question at you. But yeah, there are challenges, but that's life, and you just have to work your way through them and see, you know, learn from your mistakes and carry on.
Excellent, thank you. Well said there, Margaret. And definitely the fact, so we've got quite a few questions as well. So I'm not sure which one of you wants to answer it. So feel free, if all of you want to answer it, that's fine as well. But if one or two, maybe max answers it, is we've got a couple of really amazing questions. So first one here is, we've got somebody that said, Samira, can you please share the BCS CV checker link that Julie mentioned? And regarding that, I can't share the BCS CV link checker only because you need to be a member of BCS. So I'm not sure if the person who said that is a member of BCS. If you are a member of the BCS, it's in the career section. I happily, what's it called, show you later. If you send me a message, I can send it to you. But it's just that we can't actually share that link. It's not going to work without the membership. And for anybody who's interested in the BCS, which is obviously this website is hosted by BCS, British Computing Society, and it's the membership that I got is £25 for the whole year, okay? And honestly, it was like the best £25 I spent, being honest. Again, I'm not saying that because I'm volunteering for BCS, but just genuinely, it's got CV checker, it's got jobs on there. You can also find a mentor on BCS as well. It's got like a whole page dedicated to people in the industry that work there as well. So absolutely, for £25, I thought it was really worth it. I think like there's other membership, different levels as well. Some of them might be £50 a year or something, etc. But what I'll do is, by the end of this webinar, I'll share all the links. I've got some really, really good links that I want to share with all of you. So do have a look. And I mean, for you to attend these webinars, it doesn't cost a penny. But yeah, if anybody wants the CV checker option, unfortunately, it does cost the membership of £25 for the whole year, which I think is a great price. Okay, so there's a question that I would like any of you to answer for me, please, my lovely panelists. And one of the questions was here is, somebody said, okay, you said that we have to show our passion and motivation. How can we demonstrate that in an interview? Who would like to answer that? How can we demonstrate our motivation to potential employer?
I don't mind starting. So,
okay.
My interview, I have to say, I think I blabbed for about 20 minutes, and the interview hadn't even started. And I remember he's now my boss, and he was laughing at me, saying, "I was going to start putting my finger, you know, and sort of doing the finger on the wrist, as if like look at the time." But for me, I was able to I demonstrated my passion by sort of saying that with AI, there's like a 10-year window before the chances of AI surpassing the human, the brain. So for me, that's a warning flag, and I wanted to be somewhere to help control, regulate what is such a big factor now in our lives. And then it's on my CV, I remember sort of putting what I was reading, and I also had like a target of what I wanted to achieve in the quarterly years of courses and awards that I wanted to achieve at that time, so they could sort of I could demonstrate that I know I'm learning. So I'm just trying to think of some book titles, but anything to do with like threat analysis, know your frameworks as well. They love to hear NIST and ISO 27000 and the rest of the controls. So it's just that, even if it's just awareness, it's just them knowing that if you've got a slight link to those sort of keywords, that they know that you are interested and you are keen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So I hope that answered the question. Definitely learn, and like you said, the book's idea is great, Jules, as well. I really like that. Okay, cool. So we have another question as well. So let's just answer somebody else's question as well. Somebody said, what did they say? They said, so somebody said, I graduate from Catalog Bootcamp tomorrow, and yes, I agree. There's a lot of learning and studying, but very rewarding. So there we go. So somebody said they're doing a Catalog Bootcamp. A couple of people also asked, let's see, let's go to see. There was another question here. Okay, so this is a question for you, Jules. Somebody says, just wondering, what was Julie's motivation from transitioning from the high-level finance into cybersecurity? Can she please share the highlight of the top 5 skills that made a difference in the transition? So that's for you, Jules. Is that okay?
For me, I think it was the fact that after doing the ISO course, I just found it fascinating, and I realized that I could transition from one sector to another. There was the flexibility of working from home, more money, and because there's such a demand that I wanted to try. I actually gave up my full-time good job, and I gave myself 12 months, and since I got the job within 9. So I really took a risk, but I was determined. I wanted to change. And what have I not answered?
About what are the top 5 skills? The person asked, can you share top 5 skills? You don't have top 5 skills that helped you, perhaps, or you could even share 3. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, you might. Everyone talks about the CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability. So there's those. I would have said it's the handling sensitive data. For me, it was more that it was being able to influence change as well, problem solve, network. What have I not said? And it's just proving that you can follow regulations, and you've really got to show them that your core values are there. You have to be a good person to be in this sector. That's what you have to demonstrate. You have to make sure that your social, your digital imprint isn't be careful with digital imprints. And I would have also then said about the social media as well, just be careful, because you're going into a sector where you don't want to be seen as someone with loose lips as well. So it's really, there's so many angles that you can demonstrate that you are the right person for the job. It's you just got to get those blinkers off, and just really look at the applied knowledge that you already have, and everyone does. And yeah, so it's sensitive data, as I said, categorizing information and business continuity, bits and bobs like that.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Jules. And I hope that answered your question to the person who asked. Okay. So the next question that we have is, and this is somebody else asked as well. They said, what advice would you have for us in terms of job hunting? So I am going to start with Tunu on this occasion. So for somebody to stand out at a job interview, or like, you know, who's somebody who's going through the job hunting strategy, I know we've all touched up a little bit on it, but what can people do to make themselves attractive to employer? What can you actually do that, so for somebody who is, think of how you were when you were looking for jobs and stuff like that. What advice would you give to people to do right now who want to follow in your footsteps? Let's just say they've got the qualifications, they've got their hands on the qualifications, but as we know, having qualifications as in like a piece of certificate, it's not enough as well. We know that getting a job, especially for somebody like me, having worked in the HR sector previously, I know it's not about just technical, it's about the fact that you need to have soft skills. The people have to be able to look at you and think, okay, you know what, this is a person that I can work with. So how can we make ourselves attractive in terms of soft skills, and just to make ourselves that we nail the job? And what can we do, like any strategies that helped you? So yeah, so I'll start with Tinu, please.
Okay, for that, in my own case, I presented myself as much as possible in a way that portrays me as someone that is teachable. Even though I try as much as possible to merge my soft skills, my previous experience with my soft skills and with the theoretical knowledge I have gotten from the certification and the boot camp that I've done, I also presented myself in such a way that the employer sees me as someone that is will be able to learn, because going into a transition role for me, it's everything I knew were more theoretical, and I tried as much as possible to present those theoretical knowledge that I had of cybersecurity. I took them and I applied them to my previous role, and then I brought it back to them. And it's a bit strategic. You just need to find a way to merge all of them together and present it to them. And in the process of presenting it to them, you need to be careful not to look too as if you know everything. You need to show them that even though I have this theoretical knowledge, I am still teachable. I am still open to learn more. And I also try as much as possible to demonstrate that what I have learned is valuable. And if given the opportunity, I would learn more. And I think that's what I did in my own case. And also, I got mentors. I have technical mentors who were also helping me with my CV. And also, I had the use of the application that Julie made mention of as well. I relied more on mentorship from in my own case. I had 2 or 3 mentors to join everything, to combine everything together. I had someone like Samira, who is in HR. Who is a mentor. I also had a technical mentor in cybersecurity itself. So I merged all these together, and I believe it made me stand out.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Tinu. Absolutely. Mentors are really excellent for your Literally, if you get a mentor, it could be, some people find, I found my last mentor on LinkedIn. Literally, I messaged, and this is a true story, everybody. I messaged 100 people. Out of 100 people, I had 3 replies. Okay, so obviously the odds are not in your favor. But if you're somebody who's got like who can handle a no, because the way I see it is you have to go out there and ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Okay, and if you message somebody on LinkedIn, on like, I don't know, you add them as a connection, you have a conversation, and you ask them, they don't owe you anything. So the way I see it is, if somebody says to me, Samira, I don't have time to be your mentor, or they say to me, no, I can't be your mentor, I don't see it as rejection per se. I'm just like, that's okay, because they don't owe me anything. So I feel like if people want mentorship, you need to go out there and get it. Okay, ask. It's either going to be no, and if somebody says no to you, it just means next opportunity. But honestly, mentors are really good for your career. I've got 3 mentors for 3 different things, and they've been really helpful for me in my career. And I think maybe next year I'll add another 3 more. I don't know, I might have to email 200 people, I don't know. But either way, you have to be a go-getter, and because if somebody can advise you where you want to go in the future, that really helps you. So thank you very much for mentioning that, Atinuke. Okay, same question, Margaret. What can people do to be attractive and to be impressionable?
Well, I think there has to be a focus on soft skills, because a lot of roles now are hybrid. So you will be interfacing with people. So obviously read again the job that you're applying for, and try and match your CV and try and sort of see what they're looking for, and match your CV to that, to pick up on your past experience, and really try and sell yourself with what they're looking for. And then in the interview, you are selling yourself. The dreaded question, tell me about yourself, it's very wide open. And if you haven't structured anything or practiced what you're going to say, you're going to end up being like a rabbit in the headlights. So, if you get an interview for the job you've applied for, focus again on the job description and try and pick out how your past experiences matches what type of role they're looking for. And obviously, you're going to be meeting people from all walks of life. You're going to have to get on with them, because it's all about collaboration. So sell yourself as somebody who's approachable and somebody who's willing to learn, because we don't know everything. But if you appear that you know everything, people are going to think, well, we possibly can't work with this person, because they're not going to be flexible when it comes to collaboration and whatnot. So present yourself as, friendly. But also the interview, it's not an exam. It's not like when we were in the BCS exam and there was an invigilator watching us and we're all sweating or whatever. It's to try to be as relaxed as possible, because it's a conversation. These people are going to be working with you potentially at the end. Person who interviewed me, both of them actually, they're now my bosses. So, we had a good conversation. It felt relaxed, and I felt that it was a good interview. Even if I didn't get the job, if there was 100 people applying for the same thing, I actually felt positive after that interview that, it went really well. And I was getting better at the interviewing process by about 5 or 6 takes. So, that's what I'd advise, just practice what you've got to sell to the interviewee and the interviewer, and know what you're talking about. Practice it.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to it, in terms of that question, that dreadful question that Margaret talked about, tell me about yourself. Yeah. What I did in my own case is that I had a slide presented for myself. So when they said, tell me about yourself, I said, okay, I have prepared for this question. I had a slide.
That's excellent.
That is one of the things that made me stand out. I had a slide already for myself. So I was going to sell myself like hot cake to them. So I presented myself, my technical knowledge, even though the technical knowledge, most of it were theoretical, I had never had an incident to practice with or anything. It was just labs and labs that I had done. So I present myself, the soft skill. I gave them a little bit about even my personal life, and they were like, oh, your presentation skill is amazing. I say, well, if I need to sell something, I do have to sell. So that question is something you need to work with, because at the end of the day, as Margaret said it, they look at the you as someone that I'm going to be working with this person. Is this somebody that it's not even about, mostly about what you know. Sometimes it's more about them thinking that, will this person be a good person to work with? I think mostly that is what determines if they will take you or not at the end of the day. So that question, you need to really address it. Tell me about yourself.
Exactly.
Very well.
No, fantastic. No, absolutely. I think you both made a great point, and I'm going to go to Jules next as well to add to get her take on this. But what you mentioned, Tinu, about the fact, and what Margaret mentioned, is that question, as much as we don't like it, it's always going to be asked. Tell us about yourself, and it's important to just be prepared. Go and rehearse it as many times. I mean, I even though I've heard that question a million times in interview myself, what I've done, what I always do as well is I record myself, so I always get my camera or my Teams and I have a meeting with myself and I talk about myself, tell me about myself, and I answer that question, because you want it to sound natural, you want it to sound fun as well, and you want to basically give them the information that they need in under 30 seconds. And as you all might have noticed, sometimes when I get excited, I talk really fast, but at an interview, I have to remind myself that I have to take it a notch down. So the way I'm talking to all of you now, if I were to go to an interview, I'm not going to be like that. And some people might say, oh no, but Samira, then you're pretending. It's a game. Interviewing is a game. You have to play the game. You have to be like, okay, you know what? I normally might talk fast, but for this particular interview, I am going to talk really slowly and I am going to pause and I'm going to take it easy, because you only have that one chance to impress. So definitely practice, practice, practice. Jules, over to you. Give us your take on, please.
Okay. What I can add is that if your interview is online, I would say check your background and make sure that what you wear doesn't blur the screen. So just practice what you're looking at what the interviewer will see as you. And I'd get a ring light as well. Really, that is your window to advertise you. And then I would also say I had post-it notes scattered around the room with just the key words, just as prompts as well, because I knew very well that I would stumble. And then to continue what you said, Samira, I would say don't just talk in your head when you're practicing all the open questions, like talking about yourself. You have to say it out loud, because it's completely different. And what I've learned is that if it's no more than 3 minutes and you're not talking about your life history, you're just talking about the path of where you were and how you got to that interview. And I think otherwise everything's all been summed up. Oh, and don't exaggerate on anything, because they will sniff you out. That's my top tip.
Absolutely. No white lies. Do not do any white lies.
Do not lie. Yeah.
Keep it straightforward, because they will find you. Like, somebody says, oh, I know how to code, and then you get asked coding question. Oops. So thank you so much for Jules for that. That's absolutely brilliant. And I think, talking about coding, a couple of people asked, do either any of you currently in your jobs do any coding?
I don't currently, but there is scope to, because well, probably not right now, but there are teams within my team, sub teams, that would do coding for different things to automate processes. But right now I haven't touched any. The most code I've touched is probably a macro in an Excel spreadsheet or a lookup or something. That's it. So it's not highly technical, but the other teams, they like penetration testers and that sort of thing, they probably would do stuff like that.
Fantastic. Anyone else? Does any of you, sorry, Tunu or Jules, do any of you do coding in your current job now?
No, not
So there's
not
no need.
yet, not yet, but you still need some basic scripting knowledge in terms of for me, when working in the incident response team, you need to know the basic knowledge on if you want to, you know, kill a process, you want to, although they are self-explanatory on the platform or software that you are using, but previous knowledge about basic scripting would go a long way for your understanding on how to carry out a process. That's it for me.
Fantastic, thank you. And Jules, do you do any coding at the moment for your job? Any requirements for that?
There were no requirements for my job to do that, but there are activities where you can have sort of like blue team and red team games sort of thing, but they're fun. But no, and I never wanted to go into that much of a low detail because there's much more smarter people than me for that. I know your limitations.
Absolutely, you might change your mind one day, Jules. Who knows, right? But it's good that you're telling us that for your job right now, you don't need to. And I think because a lot of people, I don't know if you heard this as well, Jules, before, but I think a lot of people, when they think of cybersecurity, they always think that you need to be a coder as well, and you
That's
don't
it.
need to
Yeah.
be. Yeah, you don't need to be. There's a
I
lot of
think
things. Sorry, go ahead,
that's
Jules.
it. That there's such a large landscape. I remember we were talking about, you know, which angle do you want to go in, and as I say, it's so vast. Where do you start? But I think what you've just got to realize is that once you've got that foot in the door, if you don't like where you are in that organization and they like you and you've got an interest elsewhere, they will help you to, they don't want to lose you, so they'll guide you and where you want to go. So yeah, you've just got to just get that foot through.
Get that foot in the door, first things first.
Foot in the door.
And
Yeah.
exactly, the hardest thing. Thank you for that very much. Okay, can you all see the slide that I was just sharing now, the cybersecurity example roles? Okay, cool. So what I wanted just to quickly do is to our attendees is just to let them know, because when people think about cybersecurity, they always think that you need all the jobs are technical per se, but I just wanted to give an example of some of the roles that that there is. Obviously, these are just few roles, so please don't look into it and say, oh, this is all the cybersecurity roles ever available. It's not. These are just some. So obviously, for anybody technical, there's these roles here. But then also, you know, there's more policy process kind of based roles as well. There's also inside, you could work for a cybersecurity company as well and also still work in sales. You can be a data privacy officer, you can be information security officer, you can do governance, risk and compliance. Those jobs do not require code per se and stuff like that. And I think with each job, definitely read the job description. And if you're somebody who, let's just say at some point you want to go down the coding way, like the panelists have said, there's always opportunities to learn. Remember, there's growth mindset. You might not know how to do it right now, code, but there's always opportunities to learn if that's something that you want to do in the future. But for cybersecurity, not all the jobs need a coding. Okay, read the job description carefully. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask the last question to my three panelists, and then I'm going to start reading out some of the questions that we have. Okay, and the question that I have is on my list here is, obviously now you've got the job, you're in the organization. Okay, so let's just say it's your first proper cybersecurity role. How do we make an impression on our colleagues? What can we do to stand out, like as in, like, you know, for them to see that obviously that we are helpful, that we're here to do a good job and to learn and stuff like that? So what would you say helped you in the first, I don't know, 3 months of you being at the new job? What did you do to learn and stuff like that? So yeah, so now we've got the job and we want to do a great job. What do we do? How do we impress? Okay, so over to Margaret first.
Right, so it was very different going back to work full time after such a long break. So I think I hit the ground running, really. I tried to learn as much as I possibly could, because I like to be busy. I don't like to be learning things theoretically. I want to do hands-on stuff. So, you know, you learn a skill and then you perfect it and you move on to the next skill and you perfect that. So that's what I kept doing. And then if there was an opportunity to do something, I would say, yes, can I volunteer to do that? So, you know, I can learn from it. because going from the NHS to working for a retail company, it's two different entities, but they have the same operating principles, really. So yeah, it was just learn as much as I could and try and fit in with the culture and yeah, be helpful and collaborate as much, just to sort of further sell yourself from the interview, because that's just an hour or half an hour. You turn up, you know, they got an impression of you then, but you've obviously got to keep up with the impression that you sold them at the interview. So you can't just like say, I can do this, this, and this, and then you turn up and you don't deliver. And that's something that I would caution anybody to do, is, you know, over promise and under deliver, because then it'll be like, well, you know, you're not performing as expected, and then it's not a good look for anybody. So yeah, so just be careful on how you do sell yourself in the interview, as to what you can actually achieve when you first go there. But yeah, it's just I don't think they're expecting you to do everything when you first turn up within the first 3 months. But you know, I like to challenge myself to say, okay, how much can I achieve? Because with us, we have a help desk. You know, how many tickets can I close within a day now? You know, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I set myself learning challenges, but also, you know, just be open to learning and the opportunities that come your way to improve your knowledge based on what they're asking you to do.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Margaret. And I love the fact that you said exactly they have an image of us from interview, but we still have to pass our probation. Every job nowadays has a probation.
Yes.
If you're lucky, it's 2 months. If you're unlucky, it could be 6 months. So in that time, we have to put our best foot forward at all times. And like you've said, it's you learning. I mean, and I'm sure every job that you will start, nobody's ever going to just push you in the deep end and say, okay, go ahead. You get training. So do you find the training process helped you as well, where they trained you and sat with you and you got induction, right?
Yeah, there was training. So yeah, and mentoring within the team, passing on of knowledge. So yeah, that was very useful.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Margaret. Okay, over to Jules.
I would say don't be late for your meetings.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I would say you haven't got to remember everything. Have a system like Confluence or OneNote, and just build up your library, you know, snippets of screenshots or whatever. Just have something so you've got a reference to, because you just got to work smarter, really. I would say just listen to what they're asking you to do. Don't ever exaggerate. Be respectful. Don't go off piste. If only report to your manager as well. So say they are watching you closely during your probation.
Absolutely. Really great tips there, Jules. And definitely don't be late. Obviously, because attendance and punctuality, very, very important. So thank you so much for
yeah,
that.
absolutely. I'd have some meetings at 8:30 and I was, oh, okay. Trying to pretend to be bright and breezy. But yes, it's yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Jules. Okay, and over to Tinu.
For me, I think the way I was able to keep the impression going was by offering my like volunteering. If maybe something comes up, the way Margaret comes, I sometimes, if it's something I really have interest in and it's something that I think I would also gain knowledge from it, I would volunteer and I would do it. So I think in the first first 3 months or so, they were actually migrating their environment, and as a junior cybersecurity person within the organization, I did volunteer for myself to be part of the big boys in the team. And so I think that made, I used that as an opportunity to keep the impression going. And my organization also provide opportunity for gaining more certification and gaining more training. And so I also take advantage of those ones to show that I am still teachable. I'm still ready to learn and always trying to improve myself. Yeah, and also those don't be late behavioral, the way you talk, the way you be mindful of all those things. Trust me, they are actually looking at you. You think they are not looking, they are looking at you. So all those things Julie has actually mentioned goes a long way in showing me keeping that impression going for you. And so I think that's how I was able to maintain the impression and also keep it going for myself. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Tinu. And I've just shared a screen now, and that was just because all the things that you've all said has been fantastic. And I just want to give people, and I think we've got a question here as well. Somebody said, do you have any examples of places you can volunteer in cybersecurity? So we do have a link that we will share with you as well, that I've prepared for some places where you can do volunteering work. So I just want to talk about gaining experience in cybersecurity. So let's say it's really, really important that you set yourself up, get your ducks in a row, as they say. It's really important that if you can, try to get yourself some work experience. That could be if you're a student currently, or even if you're not a student, go out to companies, ask them for work experience, look out for internships. You've got nothing to lose, okay? Don't be scared of rejection, because if you think too much in your head, you're just going to stay in your head. You need to get out of your head and go and apply, okay? A job is just not going to come to your door. Like my panelists have been saying, you need to, if you're on LinkedIn, make sure your LinkedIn is up to date. If you are filling in application forms, just don't do quick apply, one CV, and hope for one job to accept you. You need to set up your CV for different jobs as well. Make sure that you tailor your CV. Make sure that you are applying and filling out actual application forms as well. And also volunteering. If you're currently somebody who's not working, for example, and you've been out of work for a while, it's important to look at volunteering experience as well. There's one website which I found really helpful. It's called Reach Volunteering, and they've got like all kind of volunteer positions. And sometimes people say to me, okay, but what job can you do in cybersecurity volunteering? Obviously, no one is just going to let you volunteer in cybersecurity job and give you like a full permission. You're going to be limited on what you get given. So the way I see it is, if you, even if you, so I would say to you, ideally is try to get a job, even in like, I don't know, like a digital skills role, so you can work in the library. Maybe you want to show people how to use software, you show them how to use antivirus. If you've done a course on let's say phishing and cyber foundations, you can tell somebody about protecting their password. So remember, when you go to an interview, those are things that can demonstrate passion. If you look for an organization called I think it's called I think it's called Age UK. It's called Age UK. They look for digital buddies as well to help the elder generation to become more competent in using computers and software and IT. So again, look at that. Start with your local community. So before you even go on the websites, go out in your local community, see what technology. It could be that you volunteer in a school, maybe in a library. It could be a church. It could be a mosque. But definitely, there's a lot of places that definitely, if you're somebody who's competent IT user, go ahead and use those skills. Okay, definitely, that's one way to do it as well. Also, attend cybersecurity events. Okay, when you go to conferences, you really meet great people and you network. Okay, and networking is very, very important. Like for example, for me recently, I don't know, Tanu, Jules, or Margaret, if you've recently been on any exciting conferences as well. But for me, in December, I went to I went to a conference, and it was really, really good. And I'm going to share the link of it as well. My head has gone blank of which one it was. But yeah, so definitely I will share the link when I find it as soon as the conference that I went to in December. That's it. I remembered it now. I lost my train of thought, but it was called B-Sides. It was the first time that I went to a B-Sides conference. It was in Hammersmith, and absolutely amazing. Like you had a lot of you had these things where you can do capture the flag, and you can do pick locking as well, which I found really exciting. And more than anything, I got lots of cool t-shirts and a lot of freebies, lots of coffee mugs. So I like collecting those. I'm a bit weird. But yeah, I mean, Tinu, Jules, or Margaret, did you go to any recent conferences or any conferences that you could recommend?
haven't been to a conference yet, but they do have a few people coming into work, and they do quite a lot of webinars as well that I've attended, and they've been really useful, you know, to keep up with advancements, threats, and that sort of thing in the retail sphere.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Exactly. Webinars, networking event all count as well. Okay. And another one as well is capture the flag. There's a really good one called Try Hack Me. It's really good website, or Hack the Box. Again, those are active things that you can be learning and continuous learning. And I'd like to bring you back your attention as well. It's definitely, as well as doing the courses, look on places like LinkedIn Learning, and also look at places like BCS as well. They've got their own learning modules as well that you can be doing. And again, as much as the technical skills are good, please also focus on your soft skills. Very, very important. Okay, and then what I'll do is, we've got about 6 minutes now. So in these 6 minutes, we are gonna answer the questions that all of you are asking. Let's see however many we can fit in, because obviously we're going to finish at 7:45. Okay, so somebody says, are we able to share our LinkedIn to connect with everyone on here? Absolutely, I'm happy to share my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is Samira Annie. Let me just find it for all of you. If anybody else wants to share their LinkedIn as well, please feel free to share it as well. So let me share mine. I'll post it in the comments, and then I'm happy for people to connect to me. Okay. So that's my LinkedIn right there. Okay. Okay, so somebody asked the question. Okay, so they asked, do you still have imposter syndrome, or did you do you still have imposter syndrome, or did you experience it in the past? From what I've heard, it's really common when it comes to cybersecurity or any IT jobs. Who would like to answer that? It could be any of you, Jules, Margaret, or Tinu.
I think imposter syndrome can happen to anyone with anything, really. But it's all about perception, isn't it? And your growth mindset. And if you have that feeling that you're not good at anything, or you're going to fail if you try it, then obviously you're not going to get anywhere. So it's breaking out of it's very difficult, but you've got to do it if you want to get ahead. As you famously say, Samira, comfort and growth don't live in the same house. So you've got to do something that scares you, I think. And that helps, actually. You know, public speaking is not something that I would have done 5 years ago. And here I am on a Zoom webinar. So, you know, you have to do something to improve yourself, and that will help you get over the imposter syndrome, for sure. It's still there in little bits, but, you know, it's not as massive as it was.
Absolutely, it really doesn't. Yeah, imposter syndrome, I don't think it ever leaves you. For me personally, imposter syndrome is my frenemy. You know, I always know it's there. It's my friend, and it's also my enemy at the same time. But it always comes there. But I just one thing that I found helpful was through working with mentors is that whenever I get imposter syndrome, I always write down all the achievements that I've had in my life, and I say it out loud. I can do this. Yes, I can. Positive affirmation, you know. Do I want comfort or do I want growth? Okay, because like you said, they both don't live in the same house. Yeah, sometimes you have to be a bit uncomfortable and make a bit of sacrifice to get where you want. But again, everyone has different limits. Okay, so but yeah, thank you for that, Margaret. Okay, I've got another question as well. And then I don't know who would like to answer that. So somebody said, for introverts, that's it, for an introvert. I think this question maybe was for Jules from before, and it said, as an introvert, somebody who doesn't like talking about themselves, etc., how can I make myself, basically, how can I make sure that I do it, I do a good job and stuff? Would you like to take that, Jules, or Tinu, anyone else, or Margaret?
No, I don't mind. I would have said you can always record yourself, and I'd say it's those key words. I mean, for me, I had the post-it notes scattered about just to have something to recall on. But why not practice in front of your friends and then get their feedback? Everyone's got, the majority of people have got phones with cameras, so there are ways for you to get that feedback. I'd also say as well, a good method to respond to an answer, especially an open question, is to use the STAR method, which was the situation, task, action, and results. And you can also impress them by putting a reflection on the end. And so if you can construct an answer with each of those, the acronym of STAR, that helps to polish, I'd say, what you want to give over. And hopefully you'll have that bit of personality behind it to showcase yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Jules. Really appreciate it. And I've got one question for you, Tinu, and then we are going to wrap up. So let's go. Let's see here. What have we got? Okay, so somebody wrote here. So maybe, Tinu, you would like to answer this. It says, any advice on finding an entry-level roles within the cybersecurity? Any advice on finding entry-level roles within cybersecurity industry with some level of flexibility for whatever reason? Could it be health? It could be childcare responsibility. I've been drawing blank so far, remote or flexible hours for more junior roles, and wondering, is it something that is possible within the industry? So, Tunu, maybe you would like to answer that, and if Jules and Margaret would like to add in, please go ahead, because I know obviously we all have what's it called, a home life as well. Some of us have children here as well. So regarding work flexibility, how would you answer that question?
In terms of getting a job that has a work-life balance, I was fortunate to start my role with a company that is extremely one of their key value is to have a work-life balance. And also they also have inequality in making sure that there's a proper representation of both female and male at workplace, even though that is almost impossible. But they are a big champion of that. So in terms of you trying to get those kind of, I would tell you for most cybersecurity role, mostly from my own opinion and from my own experience, mostly they are work from home. When I did this interview, when I got this job, got the vacancy for this job, it was written there that it is not going to be a remote role. But when I started, it was remote. So because at the end of the day, you can do this job from almost anywhere, because you are able to use software to access the organization and protect them from anywhere you are. So in most cases, I believe that most cybersecurity rule, what they can do just to ensure that they are following regulation, they can tell you, okay, come in twice a week or 3, but most of the roles I have come in contact with, because even after my job, after I got this job, I've tried to, see if I would get any other job, because I wouldn't want to say, oh, I got this job a bit too easy. So I still try. And I realized that most cybersecurity roles are very flexible because they are more techy. And so because of that technicality that has already been built for that role, you are able to do it from almost anywhere. So it will be a good role for you to start as someone that already has other live things that they are doing, because we all have behind all those beautiful faces, there's something back at home that you need to handle. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And because of the timing, I'm not sure, sorry, if you had anything quickly to say, Margaret or Jules?
I'll just, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was dead set on getting a remote only job, and when my opportunity came up, it was hybrid, and it's doable for me. And I think that's the main thing. You have to sift the wheat from the chaff. If they're advertising a job in Leeds and you live in London, then you have to work out from a geographical viewpoint, where is your maximum limit for commuting. You don't want to spend a fortune in petrol or train fares or whatever. It's difficult fitting everything into a family, especially working full time. Fortunately, I'm in a position to do so and be picky, and just fortunate that the stars have lined up and I am where I am. So you have to work out what you can live with in terms of expenditure and tiredness levels. we're not spring chickens. So it's, you know, you've got to work out what's acceptable for you in terms of how, or where you want to apply for jobs.
Fantastic. And Jules, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to add even that most employers will frown if you don't have a life-work balance. I asked for term only, and that fitted my family needs. And there's a Disability Act to protect you, so there is no reason regarding your age, sex, health. Getting into this sector is not a factor. You just go. It's your passion that will drive you into it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. There are protected characteristics. And even if a job, like you said, it might say, okay, hybrid, or it might say, etc. Always ask. If you don't ask, we don't get. And there are legislations there to protect us. And definitely, I think sometimes when we look at the cyber and IT role, we do notice, and actually figures do show that it's a lot more, it's underrepresented when it comes to women. And I think with the more that jobs are flexible and they offer these flexibility to basically help people with their requirement, the more it can be diverse and inclusive for everybody, for parents, for people with disability, etc. So thank you so much for that. So so everybody, this is coming to the end of our webinar. I know we had a question about somebody who asked about security clearance. So I'm just going to quickly answer that about the security clearance. If you haven't been in the country for more than 5 years as they require it. So SC, there are different levels as far as I understand. But however, not every single cybersecurity role requires security clearance. It all depends on what you are. If you are working with the UK government, there are restrictions, absolutely, okay, and you need to read what those restrictions are. But however, for a lot of other companies, they might not need it. But I think but there's always cybersecurity roles that you can do that don't require SC if you are an international student, etc. So I hope that helps. But I'm not the expert in SC, but I just feel like with every job, it's different, and you just really need to read. But not every job requires security clearance, as far as I know. So do look out for that. Okay, but I just want to say thank you so much for our lovely panelists and our wonderful guests. It's been really an amazing webinar. I feel like, you know, we've learned a lot, and the fact that all of you have taken time from your busy evenings to share this with us, we are forever grateful. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody who came and shared, who asked amazing questions as well. For anybody who asked about the recording, it will be on the website, on the YouTube. I'll let David. People are asking, when is it going to be on? Is that going to be in about a week's time, etc.?
Yeah, about a week. We all have to approve the video, and then we'll release it in about a week.
So there you go, everybody. So in about a week's time, it will be on there, but do look it out on our website, okay, on the YouTube page. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And I'll connect with anybody who sent me a LinkedIn request. I will connect with you later on as well. So I'm not sure, David or Dalim, if you had anything else to say while we close. I'll leave the last words for both of you.
Okay, well, I'd like to say that was brilliant. Samira, you did extremely well. I'm hooked in, and I want to sign up with you straight away. And the only danger you've got regarding this evening is that you're likely to have about 50 or 60 requests for you to be a mentor. But because of your wonderful colleagues, Margaret, Tinu, and Jules, you can share that load with others as well. You've been really great, all of you, and the examples are real life examples which we can all learn from. And your enthusiasm is really showing, your passion. And that's the problem. If you feel you're much too shy to show your passion, that's the problem that I'd see. You have all learned to be passionate about what you believe in, or even the fact that you need a job. That's the situation we're all put in sometime or other, and you've done it. So well done, brilliant evening. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing more of you, Samira, at least on other webinars and so on in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dalim, for your kind words. And honestly, I'm very grateful to, I mean, I'm a volunteer for BCS, so I don't get paid for this. Just for a disclaimer, everybody, I'm a volunteer. And this is amazing. And the reason why I do this is because I'm passionate and I want to make sure that the tech is accessible. I love sharing stories, but without our wonderful guests and without the BCS team supporting these events, this would not be possible. So it's a great, great team event. So please do, what's it called? Connect with us on LinkedIn, and I'm always happy to share any details. I might not be able to mentor 50 people, but if I can advise you somewhere, I will always share it. But thank you, everybody, and thank you to our wonderful panelists. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.